never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Before we get into today's video, let me first remind you to go to prizepicks.com and enter the keyword Ref Brandon and double your deposit up to $100 just by entering the keyword Ref Brandon at prizepicks.com. And I want to say a big hello to Chaos. Chaos is a female independent wrestler in the state of Michigan, and I just found out yesterday that she's been watching our videos in the state of Michigan and she has subscribed to the channel. So Chaos, thank you very much. Tell your friends, tell your family all about Ref Brandon and the Todd Family on YouTube, and we would greatly appreciate it. But I figured since the Clash at the Coliseum is coming up Sunday, now I know people call this a preseason race because it doesn't count for points, but it's still a very exciting race. So I figured since it's this Sunday, which is only 5 days away, and the NASCAR season is officially here, I would go ahead and do my early season projections on which 16 drivers will make the chase for the championship. Now, if you remember, I did this last year, and if memory serves, I got 15 of the 16 correct, and the only one that I missed was Kurt Busch, and that was because he suffered that concussion in August and he missed the rest of the season. So it's kind of hard to make the playoffs when you're not racing. So outside of that, I had a great preseason prediction list. So I figured I would try it again this year. Any thoughts on it? Please feel free to let me know. I'm very excited about the NASCAR season since they've backed it up and they now start the 3rd Sunday of February instead of the 2nd. There's only one off week all year long once they start, and that is Father's Day weekend in June, but they run every other weekend outside of that. So once it starts, it pretty much runs nonstop all the way through November. So for 9.5 months, you have some kind of NASCAR race every single weekend. The TV ratings are slowly going back up. There's rumors that behind the scenes, everybody feels like NASCAR is slowly getting back to where it used to be. It may not ever again be as popular as it was back in the 90s, but it doesn't mean it has to be down like it was 8, 9, 10 years ago. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hear my 16 predictions on the drivers that will make the playoffs this year in the NASCAR Cup Series. I think all 3 drivers for Penske make the chase. Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, and Joey Logano. Of course, Ryan Blaney made it last year on points because he did not win a race. He's looking to get back in victory lane this year. And you'd be a fool to not pick Joey Logano. He is a defending champion. Not only that, he's 32 years old and already won 2 championships. So he's looking like he may end up winning 4 or 5 championships. So you talk about a good driver. You'd be crazy to not pick Joey Logano. And then I think Kyle Busch in his first year for Richard Childress Racing is a for sure pick to make the playoffs. And I think he'll win 3 or 4 races in that new car with a new team. I think he feels rejuvenated and he feels like he is starting his career all over again. There was a big to-do and a big hoopla last year about him not finding sponsorship. And I think that was really Joe Gibbs not wanting to, because we all know that Denny Hamlin has his full-time sponsor for as long as he wants to race. So you really don't have to do any kind of looking for a sponsor for Denny Hamlin. And Martin Truex Jr. pretty much has his full-time sponsorship for as long as he races. And Christopher Bell's doing so good right now that he has sponsorship for the foreseeable future. So I think since Hamlin was set to go, and Bell was set to go, and Truex was set to go, Joe Gibbs just didn't want to go out there and try to find a Kyle Busch sponsor. He said, hey, my grandson already has a full-time sponsor. I'll just put him in Kyle's car. So now he's got 4 full-time drivers that all have sponsorship for basically the next 4 or 5 years. So Joe Gibbs doesn't have to worry about going out trying to find sponsors. So that's why he let Kyle Busch go, and I think Kyle Busch wins 3 or 4 races this year with Richard Childress Racing. Then I think all 4 drivers for Hendrick make the playoffs. Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, William Byron, and Kyle Larson. Of course, everybody knows my disdain for Chase Elliott, so we won't talk about that. And then I think Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Martin Truex Jr., all 3 make the playoffs. Now, of course, we know Martin Truex Jr. missed it last year, but I think he gets back on track this year. I was on the podcast last night with my man Jay talking about wrestling and racing, and I told him I think it's a big year for Martin Truex Jr. because he's going into his age 43 year, and usually 43, 44 is when you start seeing full-time drivers slow down. But he struggled last year mightily. There was a big rumor going around that he was going to retire. He ended up re-signing with Gibbs, but he only signed a 1-year deal. So if he does struggle again this year, he may just hang it up. But he also just broke up with his long-time girlfriend, who's battled ovarian cancer now for basically the better part of a decade. But also ever since Cole Pearn retired, Martin Truex Jr. just has not been the same. But if you follow NASCAR, you know that most drivers that have luck long-term always have that crew chief long-term. And before Cole Pearn, Martin didn't do a whole lot. And since Cole Pearn's retired, he ain't done a whole lot. But I think he kind of sort of gets back on track this year. I think Kevin Harvick makes the playoffs in his last season racing. He says this is not his last full-time season. It's his last season. He said he believes when you retire, you should retire. Not retire and come back the next year and run 5 races. Not retire and come back the next year and try to run Daytona. When you retire, you retire. So he says this is his last year racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. I think Chase Briscoe makes the playoffs. He just signed a huge contract extension with Stewart-Haas Racing. A.J. Allmendinger is now full-time again for Colleague Racing in the NASCAR Cup Series. I think with all the road courses they run, he'll win 1 or 2, and that'll be enough for him to make the playoffs. I think Ross Chastain makes the playoffs again. That's 15 drivers, and now we're down to the 16th and final one. Honestly, it comes down to one of two guys because me personally, I don't think Ty Gibbs is ready yet. Plus, his attitude sucks so bad. He's going to get put in the wall by somebody at least one time this year. And until they get the rears of these cars fixed, if he has the same luck Bowman had last year and the same luck Kurt Busch had last year, if he gets put in the wall, he might miss 4 or 5 races. So Ty Gibbs ain't ready. So it comes down to one of two guys, in my personal opinion. Those two guys are Austin Dillon and Ryan Preece. Now, Austin Dillon, some years, gets enough points to make the playoffs on points. Some years, he'll sneak up and win a race and make it in because of that. And it's Ryan Preece's first full-time season with Stewart-Haas Racing. It's not his first full-time season in the Cup Series, but it's his first full-time season driving for a relevant team. And I think, me personally, he's going to have a really good year. And Stewart-Haas needs him to have a really good year because Harvick has announced he's retiring. Eric Almirola was going to retire last year. He decided to come back for one more year. This might be the one more year, and he may do it again next year. But if Eric Almirola does retire and Harvick is retiring, the only two full-time drivers Stewart-Haas has are going to be Chase Briscoe and Ryan Preece. They sent Cole Custer back down to the Xfinity Series. They feel like he's not ready. So Stewart-Haas really needs Ryan Preece to do good because otherwise you've got Chase Briscoe pretty much on an island by himself. And as good as Chase Briscoe is and as good as he's going to be, he can't run that team by himself. And if they sent Cole back down, they're not going to call Cole back up this quickly. So the Stewart-Haas organization needs Ryan Preece to have a successful season. So I think this year they're going to be all hands on deck and helping Ryan Preece have a very good season and pretty much take the place of Harvick and become one of the two dominant Stewart-Haas Racing drivers along with Chase Briscoe, because no matter how much longer Eric Almirola races, he's never been a winner. He finishes top 10, top 15 a lot, but he's never been a winner. They need somebody who can win races, so I think they're going to help Ryan Preece every way they can. I think he sneaks up and wins a race somewhere, so I think Ryan Preece is the 16th and final driver to make the playoffs this year in the NASCAR Cup Series. Again, any thoughts on it, please feel free to let me know. The Clash is upcoming Sunday, and then, of course, we get the bye week because of the Super Bowl, and then 2 weeks away on the 19th of February, which February starts tomorrow, we get the Daytona 500. It'll be just after 2:30 Eastern Time that Sunday afternoon. Don't forget about Homes for Our Troops, the publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. For whatever reason, this dad joke just amuses me big time. What is Forrest Gump's Facebook password? One Forrest one. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brendan saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.